Hi everyone, this is Ajit here again. Today I'm going to talk about how you can conduct a pricing project in a SaaS company. Now, pricing projects are often complex, and I'm going to break this down into 8 parts. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is one of the most critical levers that you can pull to drive growth. Yet, 50% of companies either ignore it or the other 50% overcomplicate it. There are inflection points in the growth of a company where a pricing project becomes important. It could be a major fundraise, like a series A, B, or C, or maybe you're moving through different growth stages, or perhaps you're creating new innovative products like major new Gen AI release that now is prompting a pricing project. It could also be that the interest rates have gone up or down and the market has changed, and now you need to react to what the market is doing. Look, in my experience, running pricing teams at multiple companies with a book published on the topic, consulting with companies on the topic, I have observed that pricing becomes this overcomplicated project time and again, laden with confusion, failure, and frustration, whether you do it in house or with external consultants. But pricing is really not that complicated. It doesn't need to be so complicated. I want to break down the BS in this conversation today and talk about how you can run a pricing project that actually moves the needle for you. I'm going to walk you through 8 steps that can transform your approach. Chapter 1: Alignment. You gotta win the internal battle first. The first problem you'll face isn't external, it's internal. Your sales VP thinks prices should be lower to close more deals. Your CFO wants higher prices for better margins. And product, they just want to keep shipping more product. Maybe they don't even want to worry about monetization. This isn't theoretical. Misalignment kills companies, misalignment kills giant projects. I was once involved with a SaaS company where the VP of sales would never adhere to any pricing model. This created havoc in maintaining our customer base or getting any pricing strategy to work. But the reason that they didn't adhere to it is because they weren't aligned with the goal of the strategy, and perhaps they really shouldn't have because it didn't align with how they sold. If this problem was solved upfront, all of the work required to publish the strategy in which resulted in them not using it would not have had to happen. You need to lock yourselves in a room and hammer out fundamental agreements. Where in our company's growth journey are we? Are we optimizing for customer acquisition or monetization right now? What is the main 2 or 3 reasons we are doing this revamp? What does success look like in the next 12 months? At Monetizely, we've actually built a free product that you can use to assess whether you are aligned or not, or in which areas you are, which areas are not, so that you can have a very productive dialogue once you do get in a room. You can check this product out at aligner.getmonetizely.com, and it's free for you to use. I'll put the link in the description. Now, the next step: data. Cut through the narrative with cold, hard facts. You need to ruthlessly analyze what's actually happening and not what you think is happening. Pull a year to 2 years of sales data plus product usage data. What we are looking for here is the truth behind the narratives. Sales teams love to tell stories. Hey, enterprises always need a discount, about 60-70% to close. We can't sell the premium tier, but do the numbers add up? What you'll typically find is eye-opening. Your discounting could be wildly inconsistent, and list prices management is just a sham. Certain features you thought were premium are used by everybody. Other features you bundled in packages aren't being used at all. Your price points may not be correlated with the size of the company you're selling or their willingness to pay, so you're not monetizing well. You need to come to cold hard truth about what is happening to then make sure that the alignment direction is matching with the ground truth, ground reality of what's happening. I made a video on how to conduct a basic SaaS pricing analysis a few weeks ago. I'll put that link in the description as well. Third, segmentation. If you're selling to everybody, you're selling to no one. Here's what most companies do wrong. They assume that their ICP and the segmentation hasn't changed in the last few years. Wrong. As you grow, your product will evolve, your customers evolve, your market evolves. But I've often seen that the segmentation and ICP documents are not updated. Nobody likes to go back and do this work. Marketing doesn't go back. Sales doesn't look at this document. Your CEO is thinking 4 years ahead. Your sales team is thinking 1 year behind. Often the case. You need to revisit your segmentation with fresh eyes. Have you entered new segments? What do these customers want? Have you gone downstream or upstream? Have you seen more creative deals that would indicate a new type of use case or buyer? This output should be a clear quantitative and qualitative description of each segment, the ideal customer profile in each, the capabilities they need from you, and the archetypical customers maybe that you already have. You will need this now for the next step in the process. And the next step is packaging, the most underrated weapon in your arsenal. All right, we're getting to the good stuff. Most executives obsess about price points when they should be obsessing about packaging. The right packaging structure can 4 to 5x your revenue, and I'm not kidding, without changing a single price point. This isn't theoretical. I've seen it happen repeatedly in all of my consulting engagements. It's like creating a first class segment in your airline when you just had economy class seats before. It can mean a huge difference. You've got two main approaches. Either do the traditional good, better, best, but even if you do this 3-tier good, better, best approach, I'm only going to recommend that you do it if you have 3 segments, right? If you have 2 segments, just have 2 tiers. If you have 1 segment, I don't know whether you should have 3 tiers, but that's one of the first place where people start sometimes. The other option is a modular Lego block based approach where you have a core platform and add on capabilities for specific needs. Now, this may actually work better for enterprise type of markets where the willingness to pay is very diverse and you need to capture across, let's say, 50 insurance carriers or 50 hospital chains. You need to, some sort of bespoke fashion, price all of these. The packaging should directly map to your segmentation. Each tier should feel tailor-made for a specific customer profile. When that customer profile sees the package, they should think, that one's obviously for me. The most common mistake is I see companies creating tiers based on internal logic rather than customer perception. Your engineering thing might think feature X is super advanced, we put a lot of effort into it, but if customers think it's table stakes, you got to include it in all of the tiers. They don't think it is premium. You want your packages to be sufficiently differentiated between each other as well, right? So that there's no cannibalization. And finally, you want to be able to have your packaging drive upsell motions. By the time a company is at 50 million in ARR, they're already reaching a point where half their ARR is coming from existing customers. So if you don't design packaging well for upsell and net retention rate, you're doing something wrong. This upsell part is what many companies miss, right? And I really want to make sure that you fix it, because beyond that 50 million ARR number, more and more of your sales is actually going to come from your existing customer base. Step 5, the pricing metric. This decision is the key pricing model decision that most people in the market talk about. What is the basis on which you're charging for? Is it aligned with the success of the buyer, your customer, and your success? What is this metric? Is it per user, per usage, flat platform fee, outcome based? It's not a tactical choice. It's a strategic fundamental lever, and it may impact a lot of systems and processes within your company as well. In some case, you may need to reset this metric when you're doing a revamp. So in my book, there is an example of a case study of Mixpanel that at one point they had shifted from event-based pricing metric to monthly tracked users, because the number of events for a product analytics suite may not be correlated with customer success. Customers may not have more revenue, more success, but they may have more events because of some product change that they're doing. If the metric was instead, which I believe they tried it for some time, monthly tracked users, now it is more correlated with the success of the products that your end customers are building, and that is a better alignment vehicle, and it allows for churn reduction as well. Changing your metric, however, is changing your business model. If you were, let's say, doing a per user model before and now you move to a usage model, so many things have to change. Sales compensation, financial reporting. There's not going to be any ARR anymore because there's not going to be anything recurring. You may be getting less cash flow in upfront. That's going to have a hiring impact. That's going to have a financial valuation impact. You're going to have to build a lot of systems to make this work. So usage-based pricing and all of these pricing models may be very sexy, but they are not just pricing changes. They are not pricing model changes. They're actually business model changes. And that is something you need to always keep into account. Don't take this decision lightly. The right pricing metric should scale with customer value. As they get value, you should get more value. It should be easily understood by our customers. It should create the right incentives for product adoption, and it should be technically feasible for you to implement and track. I will put another video in this description that goes through the 7 factors of pricing metric selection in more detail. Step 6, price points. This is where science meets art or art meets science. Once you've nailed your segmentation, packaging, and metric, it's time to set the hypothesis of price points. This is where you need both data and judgment. In order to select a workable hypothesis, I recommend that you understand your unit economics and cost of goods sold, because obviously you'll want a certain amount of gross margin. Understand the benchmark pricing in your market. You could be in a blue ocean market where there is no price anchoring, which is great, or you could be in a red ocean market like a customer service platform or CRMs where there's just so much competition. Then factor in your strategic goals. Do you want market share or profitability? And that will depend on the price level that you will set. One counterintuitive point in enterprise sales that I want you to consider. Enterprise sales software can act like Veblen goods. Lower price points may actually disqualify you, and it is only when you have higher price points will you be taken seriously. This happens with a lot of luxury products, but it also happens with enterprise software in segments such as government, financial services, or healthcare. Very cheap software that solves the job probably won't even be considered. So if you're new in the enterprise segment, I very often see young founders, early founders make the mistake that they will underprice with the goal to be competitive, and that has a completely counterintuitive effect. So just a side note on that point on price points. Step 7, testing. Now you have many options for testing. If you have a B2B company, you could do what I do is like a structured qualitative feedback exercise where I go through 15 to 20 customers and I will run this exercise to get validated results or my hypothesis. Or if you're more of an online sales PLG based company, you may want to do more Van Western or conjoint analysis. Those gets you more survey based feedback on your packages or tiers, and it gets you more, it's definitely more statistical and quantifiable, but it also works better for products that are easily definable and understood through a survey process. But you have essentially both these sort of survey-based approaches as well as in-person primary research approaches for getting feedback on your hypothesis. Now, these studies may take 4 to 8 weeks to do them thoroughly, and I highly recommend you take the time to do, and you now compare this to your hypothesis. It may give you some really interesting insight. Many times I find that companies undermine the willingness to pay of customers. Some customers are actually going to be willing to pay you much more than you originally thought. And for things like areas of service capabilities or specialized things where your product could be, let's say, 30-40K in base fee, but your services customers are willing to pay $500,000 for. I've seen this example with clients, and that's immediately brings an opportunity for you to monetize these things when originally you may not thought that you could even monetize those services. On the flip side, when it comes to SMB customers, you may realize you're overstuffing features in the package. Customers may care for just a handful of features, and by you giving away too much, you may be blocking your upsell pathways later down the road. What you may get a signal from SMB customers that they want much fewer features, but they're happy with the fewer features. Now, with all of these learnings, update the hypothesis that will become your final pricing strategy. The last point, launch. Now, execution will separate winners from wannabes. You've done the strategy work. Now comes the execution. This is where I see even smart companies fall apart. Launching new pricing isn't just updating your website. It's a comprehensive go-to-market shift that touches every customer-facing part of your company. Systems such as CPQ, billing, CRM, they all need to get updated. Feature flags have to be updated. Sales team needs training on the new collateral. They need guidelines for discounting. Customer success needs to know how to handle existing customer questions. Marketing needs to update messaging and lead generation. This is where most pricing strategies fail. They say that within any war, right? It's like you can have the best war strategy, but how it is executed by the soldiers on the battlefield is where wars are won or lost. That's pretty much the case with pricing. When I started this conversation, I explained to you that an old VP of sales of mine did not execute a strategy they were given. So you could have spent a lot of time, but if you had a problem in step 1 in alignment, there goes all of that work, right? If you've done the strategy work, I would estimate that it will take you 2 to 3 times the time that it took you for strategy to actually stabilize and make sure that the new strategy is percolating and working well. The strategy is not the main part. It is the rollout, implementation, execution, making sure different teams such as RevOps, engineering, finance, and sales get on board. You have to also think about a very critical decision. How do you handle existing customers? Will you grandfather them in perpetuity? Will you force their migration? Will you create incentives to upgrade? There is no universal answer, but have a clear document on what the decision was and what will be exception policies, because this will continue to be questioned. And sales compensation, don't forget to optimize sales compensation either, because if you're changing pricing a lot, sellers won't sell in the new way unless they are being comped correctly. The bottom line, pricing revamps are often time consuming, but it's more because of lack of alignment and poor implementation. The strategy part is actually the easy part. Understand that the juice is worth the squeeze. By research by OpenView Partner and Bessemer Ventures, on a conservative estimate, the change that from the table that you can pick up is 12 to 20% per year of revenue, right? So think of how much that is on a compounding time frame. And you could be getting much more than 20% of a bump from a pricing project. It is nothing to sneeze at. So think of, with this much at stake, you want to really focus on, again, make sure that you're aligned, make sure you go the whole 9 yards, and then you will reap the benefits. And yes, you can again use aligner.getmonetizely.com to get started on your alignment process. See you in the next video. This was Ajit Kuman, CEO and co-founder of Monetizely. I hope to see you at other videos or engage with you directly. I'll put a lot of links in the description as well.